Welcome to the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show. I'm Shane O'Keefe, joined by these two marks, John Morton and Ciaran Dunphy. That's what you're going to be known for all the times.
You're a mark as well, Shane.
Yes, I am a major mark. Today, we're going to be talking about dream matches that never happened or didn't happen in the right context. This is something John brought to the table.
Oh, yeah. I just feel like there's certain matches that, yeah, like they did happen, but they didn't happen like with extended programs that had TV time, had story time, or on pay-per-views. Egregious ones for me in that regard would be like Roddy Piper and Randy Savage, Bret Hart and Jake Roberts.
They surely happened.
They happened. The matches happened, but they weren't like programs. They weren't the feuds that they could have been. Like the idea of doing like, you know, a Savage and Piper program in like 1989 or 1990, or doing like Bret and Jake in 92 or 93.
You're looking at, say, we'll start with Piper and Savage. You're looking at, say, Piper coming off WrestleMania 1, Savage starting to gain steam around WrestleMania 3. So you're looking at 89 as the optimal time.
Maybe. I mean, Piper was kind of in and out a lot. He was really pursuing his movie career. But, like, Piper was a face in the lead into WrestleMania 3. Savage was still a heel. Probably
you want to get in Steamboat then?
I wouldn't have done that match then, but I think maybe you could have done it afterwards. I don't know. Or like sometime in that frame, there was definitely other points, like in 1990 and 1991, where Savage was still a heel, Piper was still a face. You could have done it.
Well, you could have done it, say, 1992 going into WrestleMania 8. You had Savage and Piper, and then you'd have Flair and Hogan as the main event instead of Flair and Savage.
I wouldn't swap that Piper Bret Hart program for anything. Yeah. I don't think. I think that was. I mean, there's other people you probably could have put Savage with. At that time, I mean, like if you're trying to get Sid over as a monster heel, Savage would have been a great opponent for WrestleMania 8. Savage Sid is not a thing that I'm sure happened in any big way either.
Probably WCW. Would you take a Piper and Savage in WCW?
The Piper.
Did that happen? I don't think so.
I'm not sure if it did. Savage was a bit all over. Like, I mean, he had some great matches and great programs, but he still struggled, you know, to be the star that he could have been, particularly with Hogan like pulling his weight and stuff.
It is a feud that's kind of hard to shoehorn in, though, isn't it? Like when you talk about what else.
It's just, you know what I mean. It's got a bit of that, you know, like that Screen Actors thing, that De Niro like Pacino vibe. Up until 1995, you're like, well, these two should obviously be in a film together at some point. Savage and Piper always had that vibe. There should be two amazing talkers, great workers in their own way, with like massive personalities. You know, WrestleMania headliners, and then for them to not have any kind of extended program themselves. I mean, they headline house shows, but that seemed to be the extent of it.
So when you're looking at Savage's WrestleMania kind of career, you had Steamboat, you had the tournament at WrestleMania 4, you had the Mega Maniacs at WrestleMania 5. What was that, WrestleMania 6?
Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty Rhodes, yeah.
Yeah, which I'm glad it happened when it happened. Maybe it wasn't the best feud, but it had a storyline, ran for months. You're getting to see Savage and Rhodes. Rhodes not so much at the top of his game, but Savage probably definitely at his.
That's with Sweet Sapphire, baby.
With Sweet Sapphire.
Sweet Sapphire.
Was that a dream match, though?
It was the American Dream, baby.
I think it's just a match that everybody was glad that it happened. Maybe it wasn't the best.
It'd be on your list if it didn't happen.
You know what I mean? It'd be on your list if it didn't happen. In the same way, like AJ Styles and Randy Orton, like it wasn't a barn burner feud, but like, at least they had a thing going for a while. I was glad it happened.
Went to Warrior, and he went to Flair. 9, he was a commentator. 10 was Crush. That was Savage done then.
Savage was done. I mean, the fact that he didn't wrestle at WrestleMania 9 was a sin. Also, Piper wasn't on the cards. They feasibly could have done it then.
Yeah.
You know,
but Piper was gone then.
Piper was gone at that point, yeah. He wouldn't come back then until WrestleMania the following year as a special guest ref.
Yeah, and then
that's
WrestleMania
kind of more
19.
like a feud, I suppose, that didn't happen, because obviously if they've wrestled on the house show circuit or something, the match did happen, but the feud.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And then, which is a very different thing from matches that just never happened at all.
The different, like, so Flair and Hogan didn't sell, apparently, on the house show circuit, and they didn't gel. But maybe that's something that happened on the house show circuit.
Yeah, but I mean, we got Flair Savage for pretty much the bulk of the year in 1992. You know, because that as a feud ran pretty much straight after Royal Rumble up until Survivor Series. Anyway, if not slightly after that. Yeah, but I still would like to. I mean, he could have done that. I still would like to have seen Flair Hogan at WrestleMania.
Had to be, yeah.
There's no way that would have been worse than what we got in the main event with a fucking DQ finish with Sid. And Voodoo Priest randomly coming in, and Undertaker or
Papa Shango was a saint.
And that's like a different. Again, it's like a different. It's kind of funny how you define what we're talking about here, because that's again a match that we did get to see, but not in the context we wanted to see it. Like that Mania, that was the moment. That was the moment.
That was Hogan Flair.
That was the two of them as close to their peaks as possible.
Yeah.
And that was the chance, and then they didn't do it. So yeah,
They just didn't do it.
that was the time. What about a match that has never happened? It's not.
I think
not,
Sting Taker.
Well, that has happened.
But like not has it?
Yeah, it happened in WCW in like 1989. Punisher
Me-
Dice Morgan against
Me
or
Mark.
Me Marcalis, yeah. His other gimmick against Sting. So the match in itself happened, but not in the context we wanted it.
Yeah.
Well, it happened, I suppose. Yeah, if we're
No,
if we're
well,
giving it to John for the same thing, it did happen.
He didn't know it wasn't the Undertaker against Sting.
Not the Carpenter Undertaker that we've come
That
to love.
fantastic craftsman who built his own coffins in his workshop.
In
But
1996.
when's the prime time to do that, right? So Sting's with WCW.
Prime time is like literally any time you've got them in the two company. 2014, 2015,
Do you think-
2016.
'cause-
You could have still ran that up till 2020. Got a good match. I'm convinced.
No,
it was-
it had to happen in 2000 and.
It should have been 2014
There
or
was the-
2015.
there
No,
was
they
the-
should have bought him out when
Or,
they got all the
ideally,
contacts.
No, but because that was the
Invasion.
American Badass.
I mean, ideally, like optimum peak of those characters, probably like at the height of their powers in
98.
that very specific gimmick.
98.
98.
Yeah.
When what wasn't there the whole they thought Sting was coming in and they were running vignettes and it turned out they ended up having to change course and it was someone else.
Oh no, I think it was just they did these badass vignettes for the Undertaker that seemed more Sting like than Undertaker like, and everybody got excited about the potential of Sting coming in, and then
What Mania was
it
that?
all led towards Undertaker versus Triple H,
That's
which
what it was.
nobody wanted to see.
Again, 3 times at WrestleMania.
3 fucking times. Once was enough.
Match that never happened. The 4th Undertaker and Triple H match at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
that's
a
what
big
should have
one.
happened.
Yeah, that was the time to put it on. Was,
That was
after the previous
definitely
3.
the time to put it on.
I mean, in terms of matches that legitimately never happened, like the big one is, I think, Eddie Guerrero, Shawn Michaels, right? They didn't cross paths at all, I don't think.
No, they couldn't have.
For two Texans particularly, it's a bit weird.
That would have been an unbelievable match. When is optimal for that?
Oh, I mean, in terms of race, you got to do 2004.
2004, yeah.
2004. So he wins the belt off Lesnar, has that match with Angle at Mania, and then loses the title to JBL.
Sorry, why couldn't it have happened in 2000? When did Eddie die?
2005,
5. When did Sean come back?
2002. So they had
They
3
crossed,
years
yeah.
to just do that fucking match one time.
Oh my god.
There was a rumor at some point. I don't know if it got changed that they were going to do it at one WrestleMania.
They're on different. Were they on different brands?
They were
Yeah.
mostly on
SmackDown
different
Raw,
brands, yeah.
Sean was Raw, Eddie was SmackDown.
SmackDown,
Yeah, I'm not sure what WrestleMania that was, but
So WrestleMania 21 then would have been Eddie and Ray,
yeah.
and it would have been Michaels and Angle. And I'm so fucking glad we got
no,
that
we got
match.
Michaels and Angle, and that's a match you don't want to be talking about.
And
not
then Michaels is in the main event at 20 anyway, which didn't really need to happen,
Yeah.
I would argue.
No, I mean, I think the focus of that was, I mean, Michaels was the Charlotte in that feud. I think where that should have built was Triple H and fucking
Yeah.
Chris Benoit.
That guy.
Michael's Angle, unbelievable. Never got Brett Angle.
Brett Angle, yeah, that's
Could
a
that
good one.
conceivably be?
Yeah,
the
could have.
conceivable
Yeah. If Angle,
if Goldberg didn't fuck up Brett.
so it could have happened in 2 ways. If Angle didn't go to ECW briefly, they were in the same company around the same time. And if Brett went to WCW and Angle actually joined WCW, which he had a small chance of doing,
He wouldn't have been Angle though.
he would have been more or less the same.
This may be news to some people. Most marks maybe not, but we did get Kurt Angle and Owen Hart.
Owen, yeah.
That was one of Kurt's initial dark matches in 1999. So there's something there. But Kurt Brett,
Brett would have been unbelievable.
2000, yeah. I mean, I think Angle was ramping up and Brett was kind of, slowing down a little bit, but still, like, Angle and Brett in the year 2000 would have been great.
I have a few more Angle ones. I don't see the Brett and Angle thing lining up ever, really.
You don't see it as in
I don't see
anymore. No, it's not going to happen.
No,
Shane.
I don't see it ever lining.
They're still alive.
I don't see it ever
There's a
lining
chance.
up. But I want to go just back, and I'll come back to the Angle and Brett thing. I want to just go back to Taker while we're on him and the dream matches. Sting is obviously the big one, but me as a TNA mark, Abyss.
Yeah, there was rumors about that Abyss at one point in the late 2000s was coming in, and was specifically the same way that Mick Foley was in 1996. He was designed to be a foil for the Undertaker. Would have been brilliant. That would have been a fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you would hope it would be a
Would
fantastic.
it be
feud.
a good match?
Abyss was a fucking fantastic.
Abyss, just that man had his working shoes on all the time. I think it would have been great.
The shit that he put himself through in matches, like I remember being completely enamored with him and Sabu in their barbed wire match in TNA. Angle and that meme with the fucking jump that he does to Abyss.
Would it be a bit too like the Mankind Undertaker feud? Like, how do you book it?
It's not a bad
differently?
thing though.
No, I know, but it's being done.
I think I think particularly in the 2010s, I mean, the way to book the Undertaker, which they only really started doing way too late, was this idea of this like aging gunslinger. This idea
Jeff
of like,
Jarrett.
which Jared is doing now.
Yeah.
The problem was is that they spent too long, keeping Undertaker in his prime. Whereas I think the joy in what they could have done with him was give him his, give him his Johnny Cash years, where he's kind of on the way out, but he's producing great stuff, and it's getting harder for him each time. They did a little bit,
yeah, but they repeated Michaels twice. They repeated Triple H twice. They had him then. Like either side of that then is CM Punk and
but they're also breaking the streak. I mean, if I was booking that streak, I mean, I think Undertaker's, and it was leading that way a little bit, but like his last 5 to 6 matches, he should have been pulling out those wins like less certainly each time, and then he should have got to, ideally in my opinion, Bray Wyatt. And I'm not just saying that because he's passed and there's a lot of love for Bray Wyatt at the moment, but like, I mean, it made the most sense that when eventually he went down, it was going to be to a guy who could in some way take his mantle.
I'm going off on a tangent here because Brock Lesnar was 100% the right person to do it. Brock Lesnar was in his 30s. He was 34 when he was he 36 when he claimed the streak.
I don't think, was he?
Yeah, so
Brock did, but he really didn't need it.
He did. Look, think about what happened, right? Okay, so Brock won the title in 2002. He's 24, right? So WrestleMania 2020 was in 2004. So he would have been, 26? So WrestleMania 30 would have been 36. So he's 36 years of age, coming into the fucking prime of his life. He's had a 10-year run since. Every Brock Lesnar match after that seemed like an absolute fucking must win for everybody. But it seemed like, because he came in, he lost to Cena, he lost to Triple H, he built him back up, he kicked the shit out of Cena, and went down then to have fucking feuds with the likes of Goldberg.
Yeah, but there was
Goldberg did it to him. I know it was.
Yeah,
no,
I don't know.
I'm sorry. There was a period where those Lesnar matches were like diabolical.
He got Reigns over in the end.
Oh no! Like, I mean, their last main event I thought was pretty decent, but up until then, that was a feud that they ran for like 5 or 6 years, and it was mostly a dud.
And I think it's only in the last like 12 months that people have come around to Lesnar. I think prior, like when Lesnar was a
I've always loved Brock Lesnar.
I've always loved Brock, and I think he's had some great feuds, but
he's the kind of last attraction. In
he definitely had
because
yeah.
He beat the streak.
I know he was gold before that. He was UFC champion. He was like youngest world champion in history. He was grand. I don't think he needed that streak.
Okay, but
I mean, I wouldn't have given it to Sting, but like it would have been really cool to see Undertaker like pull one out barely against Sting when we finally get that match at WrestleMania, and pull one out against Lesnar, and then eventually get taken, or the other way around, and then eventually get taken down by Bray Wyatt in 2015. I think that would have been a great piece of storytelling, and particularly given Undertaker like 2 of his hardest opponents before he loses. Also, Punk, it seemed like Punk was coming pretty close to beating him.
Punk was never.
But it was a great match. It was arguably one of his best.
Would you have given it to Abyss if that match did happen?
Oh, no. Well. If you're getting Biss in 2009, 2010, yeah.
Fuck you.
What would it do? Like,
it would have.
I know. Abyss is on the Abyss. What has like 3-4 years left in him? Like, it's not going to give him the.
Well, yeah, at that point, but I think if you did it at the right time, I think it would have been great. Like, I think ultimately the point of the Undertaker moving into his retirement should have been Undertaker will eventually go into the guy who is the new Undertaker, whether it be Bray Wyatt or an Abyss, or if we'd got that far, it could have been an Aleister Black.
Could have been Hayde Vanson.
Could have potentially been Hayde Vanson. Might have been Mordecai.
Should have been Mordecai.
Like, there was a couple of contenders there, but I think the guys who could have feasibly beaten him, who would have benefited lots from it, would have
Nathan
been
Jones.
Not quite the beast of Boggle Road, but I think like Bray Wyatt or an Aleister Black or
Aleister Black would be a great one actually.
Or even like straight away just let it be Roman Reigns or
Cody.
Let it be potentially Cody.
Wow.
So on Lesnar, we're talking about Lesnar there. Dream matches that Lesnar could have had.
Oh, you wish
Austin,
that. Well,
we never got it.
we never got a one-on-one. No, it happened in a triple threat.
It's not something that I
That is
really
pretty
want to
cool.
see. It's just because it didn't happen and you took it away from me.
Same, kind of like that, yeah. Like the Goldberg, I know it's such a weird match, but I always like watching that Goldberg Lesnar match where they get booed out and Austin's in the ring.
WrestleMania 20.
And like that's the three of them in the ring together, like the three, kind of the future, the two from the Attitude Era, and just never get to Austin.
What about Goldberg Austin?
I would have liked to see Goldberg Austin. I don't know how you would run that feud. I think like a heel Goldberg might have worked really well in that. But that's a match again that should have happened. That
They had the chance to do it.
they had the chance to do it.
No, 2003 after WrestleMania 19, that's when Austin left.
No, but if you don't do that
And that's
third,
when he came in. He came in the WrestleMania or the Raw after.
but you could so easily have not done that third Rock Austin match. They've already main evented now their third match, which to be fair, I really like, and I like that was the one that Rock went over in. But this is the third time it's happening in WrestleMania, and for the first time now it's not the main event. That card could have easily had Austin putting Goldberg over on the way out.
Not over. He doesn't even have to put Goldberg over.
Rock could have been putting over someone else,
Yeah.
Jericho or. I don't know, someone that would have really benefited, because Rock was on his way out and Austin was on his way out, and they were kind of neither of them got anything. Well, Rock particularly, he got the win over Austin, which was quite poetic after 3 WrestleMania matches.
But it's not even about.
But then he's just been fed to Goldberg straight away.
It's not even about what they do in the future. Like, it doesn't really matter who wins these matches. It's just like fan service. Just let the fans.
Oh
see
yeah, it should all be fan service.
Yeah.
But also stuff that like builds in terms of like the logic of if you got someone who's on the way out, they should create a new star in as much as they can and
Yeah, Brett.
give someone else the.
Yes.
Don't
I didn't agree- I
do
didn't
this,
say that.
Shane.
He said it, not me.
If
No.
you're on the way out to the time-honored tradition,
Yeah.
drop the belt.
I'm a Brett Mark. I do think Brett should have dropped the title on
He
the
was
way
going to
out.
drop it on the Monday.
That's not
To
dropping
Ken
the fucking
Shamrock.
title.
To anybody. Okay, speaking of Ken Shamrock.
Ken Shamrock, Brock Lesnar.
Ken
Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn.
Angle, yeah, Ken Shamrock.
Ken Shamrock, Kurt Angle. Yeah.
Ken Shamrock. That could have happened.
That could have happened.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think. Well,
Crossover. There was 98 Kurt is in.
Kurt. Yeah, but it wasn't Kurt. Like,
I've just seen it's physically possible
well-
in the same company at the same time.
I think the idea of these two hard men and like the presentation of Angle
Hardest
versus
of
the
men.
presentation of Shamrock, would have been so good. But you both they're both so dangerous, which is way more interesting dynamic than
But that
even
would have been, like,
Shamrock and
nerdy.
Severn, which are two like really hard, stoic, fucking tough guys. Like Angle's whole like milk and cookie shtick against Shamrock would have been a really nice contrast.
Yeah, I would love that one.
On the Lesnar one, can I just say as well, one like program that never happened in a match that I would have loved to have seen would have been like Prime Rhino against Prime Lesnar.
Prime Rhino.
That's
That would have
interesting
just
one.
been a really good, meaty
hitting.
Could have
feud.
happened.
Could have easily happened, yeah.
Rhino came in. Before,
2001, the
yeah,
year before Lesnar.
before WrestleMania 17, he was in.
Did we ever get Lesnar Sheamus?
Yes,
I don't think we
so.
did. No, I don't think we did. Unless it was on a house show.
Didn't Sheamus win a title? It won the undisputed title in 2015. Did Lesnar win it off him?
No, it was Roman Reigns bookended. I think both of that,
I
yeah.
think Sheamus Lesnar have been unbelievable.
Sheamus Lesnar, I don't think that's happened. No.
I think Sheamus is after getting a lot of credence, maybe in the past 3-4 years. Mainly, I think due to his battles with Drew, especially during the pandemic era, where it just you could hear the lads kicking the shit out of each other.
his stuff with Cesaro was class prior to that as well.
Yeah, with the bar.
he's had some.
No,
good-
yeah, but even prior to the bar, they had the best.
They're the
of
best
seven.
7. Yeah.
I just want to say so. I fucking hate mohawks in wrestling. All right, Sheamus is shitty mohawk. Sean Spears shitty mohawk. Anybody with a mohawk,
LOD.
that fucks it there. No, they didn't really have a mohawk.
Animal.
That is totally the mark. Yeah.
Heidenreich.
Did Animal have a mohawk?
Yeah, Animal had the mohawk.
When they
Hawk had
put
the
in-
two. things.
Hawk just had his
Baldy thing.
had his skid marks in his head.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, that fucks me up. Sean Spears anyway, and Sheamus
yeah,
with his
Sheamus is
fucking
terrible.
spiky mohawk.
Someone has a now. Oh, Brian Cage.
Brian
Brian
Cage's
Cage.
shitty mohawk
Yeah, not good.
looks ridiculous. When you're talking about Angle, something that could have feasibly happened, particularly during his TNA time, Bryan Danielson.
Oh, that's
wow.
that's an ultimate dream match of two of the best technical guys, but two fantastic interviewers and really distinct characters.
When would you put it on?
2006. I would have just
Wow, yeah.
like Angle off his fucking nut
Yeah.
in wrestling machine mode and like young
His
cattle
matches with Joe were
mutilation
great.
Danielson.
Yeah, his matches with Joe were fucking brilliant. You look at Lockdown then, I think in 08 they had that MMA inspired one. Danielson went to WWE, 2010?
2010, yeah.
Yeah, so that could have happened around...
And he still could have run a similar kind of, that whole idea of the veteran and the new guy. He was like the upstart who's a better, prefers to be a better technical wrestler. Like, there's so many times he could have done that and it just didn't.
What way do you see those, like, we're talking about the dream matches and stuff, but maybe getting into the technical side of the actual match, like, what way do you see it going? Do you see him, like, being 45 minutes all out warfare? Like, does that match start really slow and then builds up into a crescendo of reversals? Like,
I think
Danielson Angle.
yeah.
I think it would have been. I
04.
think it would have been a masterpiece. I think if it was been booked under Vince at that time, which, you know, if you're booking it in WWE, I think Angle is kind of like destroying him for a match, maybe 2 matches, and then Danielson's probably squeaking.
I don't think
the last one.
Danielson would have come in, say, around 2010. Don't think Danielson would have come in with any type of, like, indie cred into WWE, or Vince would have allowed.
Well, they
him
kind
to.
of ignored it. I mean, his whole gimmick was, "Hey, look at this weird vegan who reads books and is an absolute fucking nerd."
Well, his gimmick was kind of, because obviously on the NXT stuff, he started going off on Miz that, like, I'm a better wrestler than you.
But
like,
in TNA,
who do you think you are? I can actually, I've been doing this for 10 years. You're like, I'm the veteran, not you.
Yeah.
If he came in TNA, he would have been allowed to be that indie fucking star. If you get
Yeah, I would have much rather see that feud happen in TNA than WWE.
Now, to be fair, Nigel McGuinness didn't get that chance. He came in as Desmond Wolfe, but he had some fucking barn burners of matches with Angle.
Yeah,
You know
they had
what I mean?
they had a great run.
Yeah, and that could have been.
In terms of British wrestlers, like, I mean, that's the idea of McGuinness and Regal, which could have happened and feasibly happened.
Yeah.
That is a lost match, I think.
Because Ambrose, like, if you watch the Ambrose and Regal stuff, that was fucking brilliant in FCW. And I was reading Moxley's book, and I'm not a big fan of Mox in general, but I was reading his book and the way he's talking about it, and he definitely seems to have an understanding of the way he wants his matches to come across. That's why I was so disappointed with him and Bray, where it could have been like a psychological and violent feud, and it turned into hokey bullshit.
And it's the same as well with, like, Lesnar not really wanting to work with him and absolutely nuking him in their feud. And they had a WrestleMania match with each other. I mean, Mox and Lesnar at WrestleMania should be something we still talk about.
Yeah.
And it was a fucking dud.
And Mox and Foley.
Mox and Foley is another lost feud and lost match, and it was really close to happen, and Mick ultimately could not get cleared, so they didn't do it.
But I like the backstory to that.
It was so well drawn out, and you got these two guys who were legitimately, like, fantastic storytellers. Like, which when you do, like, not every wrestler is a good storyteller, and I mean not just in terms of in-ring storytelling, but in terms of, like, having an awareness of other wrestlers' backstories, histories, how those characters contrast with them, and then being able to tread stuff from that. Foley's one of the best for that, and Moxley is too.
Yeah, when Moxley tackled Foley's being interviewed somewhere back.
It was basically like, "Hey, I'm part of a generation of kids who idolized you.
Yeah.
We jumped off fucking roofs because of you. We
Fucked
maimed ourselves
Yeah,
because of
it's
you.
amazing.
And I realised that's complete folly, and I'm here to hold you accountable."
Money. It's class.
Money.
Yeah, unreal.
But ultimately, if that did happen, then you don't get the Shield.
Yeah, that's also very true.
All these what ifs also have a massive.
There's an impact. While we're on that, just to linger on that, another one of these matches that people talk about is a dream match that's never happened, but this is one that feasibly could. Shield triple threat. Just wanted to throw that one in there.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it would have been a perfect match.
They all were champions on the same night. They all won world.
Yeah, they
championships.
all consecutively
Yeah.
won it from each other, which was probably as close as we're getting to that.
Why the fuck would you not do that? And that's probably never going to happen.
Should it? I don't
No,
know.
that
It should have been a WrestleMania main event.
That never happened.
I mean, Shield triple threat absolutely should have been a WrestleMania
Another
main
one
event.
that won't happen now, but should have happened: Walter versus Joe.
I didn't even think of that, and you just said it, and I fucking felt pain. Oh, like that
We'll
has
never get
to.
that.
Oh, we have to get
We
that.
won't.
Joe's been fired twice.
Walter's now like he's on to bigger. He's going to be there for 10 years.
I'm so very grateful that we got that Vince at the very least give us Joe and Lesnar in a main event for a world title. I'm
Lesnar
so
looked
grateful.
badass.
It was a great feud, and Lesnar had his working boots on for that feud with Joe.
Great balls of fire feud.
Great balls of fire. Good ones. While we're kind of skirting on, just going back to Bryan Danielson as well. His no-brainer feud with Shawn Michaels is one. There's a good few Shawn Michaels ones.
Yeah.
But Bryan and Michaels is definitely something that could have happened.
Especially
And particularly when there's such a like hard-baked, literal like students-teacher storyline there to capitalize
Well,
on.
he's trying he tries to distance himself from the Shawn Michaels training and give more credence to the stuff that he's learned.
That's because Shawn wasn't probably that hands-on, was kind of coming in
taking money.
fucked up on somas and shit and taking the money,
so
but still, that in itself could have been a great basis for the feud.
He tries to associate. Yes, I'm saying he tries to associate himself with William Regal, more so than with Shawn Michaels. So when does that happen then? Because Shawn Michaels is retired by that stage.
Regal Danielson would have been unreal.
Well, no, it happened.
Yeah, that happened.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened on TV.
Was that when was that?
They did it on like
Was it in the
Superstars.
U-
There's that
was it in
famous
the
clip
UK?
where like
He's a
the UK,
man.
where Danielson kind of where he ribs him by when Regal's come down to the ring.
Yeah.
And they have, I think they have wrestled on the
Regal laughing
Independents.
all
I
the way
mean,
down to the ring.
there wasn't an extensive program, but like Regal Danielson happened, and I think it's happened quite a few times.
Well, what about this one then? Left field. Polar opposite of what we're talking about at the moment. LOD and Demolition. That never happened.
It did.
I thought it did happen.
Never
Surely.
happened. Never.
House shows.
Never. Well,
Is this one of these things that was so obvious that we assumed it happened?
Yeah. Well,
Jamie, bring it up there.
LOD Demolition. I'm pretty sure that never happened.
You know what?
I'm almost certain.
If there's anyone listening to this, they're just going to be screaming.
Yeah, he's a
That
mark.
definitely did happen.
He's not smart, Mark, though. When
There, yeah. WWE missed opportunities. Legion Doom versus Demolition.
Yeah, but it's now coming back to our like central point. It's like there's certain things that happen as matches, but there's things that didn't necessarily happen as long running programs or TV feuds or pay per view feuds
Never happened.
at all.
They were on a collision course for one of the biggest tag matches ever. Didn't happen.
What the fuck?
There you go.
how do you not book that?
Can I ask a very similar question?
Because they wanted to book, was it Powers of Pain?
I was about to say Powers of Pain.
Yeah, because Vince didn't see Demolition as WWE's version of LOD, even though it was so clearly that that's what the fans believed.
Powers of Pain were.
Yeah, so they went with that instead.
But like Demolition were like longest reigning tag team champions for they had a record for decades. They were a massive team, even if they were like slightly inspired by them. I thought I was full sure that happened in some kind of crossover between like Demolition winding down and LOD coming in. Jesus. On that note, similar teams from that era. Did we ever have a match between Rock and Roll Express and the Rockers?
No, never.
Fuck. Okay, that's
AWA? No?
I'm pretty sure we've never had that match in any context.
yeah.
I think it's one of those
I don't think I've ever
classics. I think it's like
glanced
the
at-
LOD and Demolition. Say if you're looking up lists, they're probably on the same list as like.
I'd love to
that
get
era.
into some talk about booking some of these kind of things. How would you book like a Sting and Undertaker feud? How would you book an LOD and Demolition feud? And I'm sure we can probably, when we come to the end of like throwing out these names, we could probably say, okay, this is the match that maybe we can all come to the consensus, we agree, and maybe do a bit of booking for it.
I think LOD Demolition is booked by keeping them apart for the entire 2 months leading up to it and just say who is.
Yeah.
Like it's that you don't need anything else other than the two biggest teams of all time. Like build
Like,
it
do
that
they
way.
clash at a Survivor Series?
I just think they get booked. That's going to be your main event or your big tag team match coming up, and just don't let them touch each other.
Yeah.
Backstage interviews, big balls, all
Paul
that stuff.
Paul Ellering doing the fucking talk.
Paul Ellering would have been fantastic, and also then just having Mr. Fuji with Demolition again, if you could like
Demolition fuck up.
like
Rocker.
having
Crush, the third man comes down, it's Crush, and it actually turns out and it's Hawk.
That's not going to happen.
but you got 3 Demolition. You could maybe bring in an honorary third row.
Draws!
Well, it's great.
Draws.
Too early for draws. Ultimate Warrior could have done something then. He was flatlining a bit. He could have been a good third man.
I know,
in
but
that
you
match.
wanted. So the whole reason that feud didn't happen, I think, is because when they had the chance to do it, instead they brought in Crush, so they became the
Billy
three.
D stopped
Yeah.
putting
So-
gel in his hair. He didn't give a fuck. He was on his
Yeah,
hair.
that was Survivor Series 1990.
That's why his hair was so nice.
Yeah, so I don't think they could do the three on three.
Well, this is one that I don't think anyone's going to be coming up with, but it is a feud that I have kind of fantasy booked in my head, and I know how I do it. I genuinely think there was so much mileage in Undertaker and Matt Bourne's Doink the Clown. I think Doink the Clown, with the Matt Bourne one, could have been
Evil Doink.
but I think there was so much progression in that character. It could have really evolved in the same. If Matt Bourne wasn't fucking smoking weed and getting in fights all the time. It really could have
been Matt Bourne.
I think it could have been wrestling's equivalent of like Undertaker and Joker, and I think
Batman and Joker.
Or sorry, Batman and Joker. It would have been Undertaker and Joker. Batman and Joker. Yeah, I think the the giant character could have evolved. I would have like taken the oddities stable from about 4 years later. I would have had Dunk managing an oddity style stable of all these freaks. Let them be like the giants that have been fed to the Undertaker.
Like what the
throughout
Penguin has
93.
in Batman Returns. He has all
Kind
these
of
weird
like
freaks.
Kevin
the
Sullivan
idea
has
of
in
Doink
Dunphy
is this
Doom.
like maniacal clown feeding Undertaker all these joints that he has to get through. I mean,
He's Harvey Whippleman.
I don't think Undertaker.
yeah, he's doing the Harvey Whippleman spot.
Is Undertaker Batman though?
He's
He is. He's Dark Vigilante.
Survivor Series 96. He came down dressed as a bat.
Yeah.
I think he's a dark vigilante. Then you got the fucking psychotic clown.
Yeah,
and I
Paul
think
Bear, who's Alfred, obviously.
both characters could have
Well, when did you put
evolved.
this on? Because
WrestleMania
they're
10.
Undertaker is not.
WrestleMania 10. Matt Bourne doesn't get fired. Undertaker doesn't take a sabbatical. It's WrestleMania 10.
What year is WrestleMania
Well,
10?
Undertaker,
94.
94,
yeah,
okay.
Undertaker doesn't like ascend to the heavens.
He doesn't
No,
eat.
I think he could
doesn't
go.
ascend
I
to
think he
heavens.
needs to push it a bit further. I think he go.
And
12 or 13.
holy shit!
You need attitude era.
Okay, remember Doink did the mirror at WrestleMania 9?
Yeah.
And he did, it was like, oh, there's two Doinks. Who does Undertaker fight at SummerSlam 94?
Taker.
Himself. Boom, there's a book.
I'll tell.
And you also have a teeny tiny Undertaker, like Doink and Dink. You got Taker and Tink.
Taker and Tunk.
Oh, God. I'm fucking hyped for that. I'm going to go home and play 2K23.
I think he could have done.
Taker versus Doink. Where are the figures? Let's get him out.
I think because Matt Bourne was a really good worker and he had a really good aptitude and he was kind of, he's a bit of a fucked up character himself. I just think the two of them could have had a really fantastic feud that could have run on off. I think that was a feud Undertaker needed before Foley came along. He needed a guy with a really strong character who was a really good worker that instead of having to fucking fight King Kong Bundy and John Gonzalez.
Elegante is class, all right?
It'd be even better though if he was part of Doink's Freak Show.
He's part of Dunk's Freak Show stable.
Yeah.
Brilliant. 1993 is salvaged.
But also,
actually-
it doesn't have to be. I know Matt Bourne is like obviously the best Doink, but it doesn't actually. You could push that feud right up to like the year 99 or 98, and just the Doink character is back.
Because
Well,
we're going to bring Papa Shango back.
Yeah, but it was still Charles Wright playing it. I think, every Doink should have had to be, the evolution of that character should have always been Matt Bourne, and it should have been different versions of it, like the Born Again character he did in ECW.
What if someone's walking backstage? Like, what if it's like Don Callis or someone backstage and they see the Doink mask in the corner of the locker room?
The jackal.
And you just see, and they just take the Doink mask and put it in there.
I still feel no one's going to be as good as Matt Bourne. Like, because they did swap him, but they swapped him out with a couple of guys, and they all
Jericho was
they
doing
sucked.
for
Well,
Vengeance.
at least Jericho was like a star doing it. It wasn't like Ray Apollo or Steve Lombardi, or even though I like him, Steve Kern. Like the alternate Doinks that were knocking around after Matt Bourne got shake hand.
But I like if they did it logically like that, where like it's not just someone else in the Doink costume and it's always the same person, like where they're like, oh, this is like an evolution. They find the mask.
But he's saying like they wouldn't be able to do.
I don't think. No, I just don't think
of
anyone.
course they could.
No,
It's just a plain clown, like.
I completely no. I completely disagree. I think Matt Bourne. There was so much
You've
of
done
him.
theater. You've done theater with
There was
good
so
actors and
much
bad
of him.
actors.
You
I
can't.
think people can.
That's like saying you could have replaced the Undertaker with fucking Dan Spivey and it would have been the same. It would have been as good. It really actually wouldn't. Like some roles just cannot be played by multiple people. It works for certain concepts,
works
like
for Razor
Tiger
Ramon.
Man.
It worked for Razor Ramon
It worked-
Diesel.
Yeah, it worked for Razor Ramon and Diesel, I suppose. But like I just feel like Matt Bourne was the right.
Here's a match
Doink.
that never happened: Razor Ramon and Diesel against Kevin Nash and Scott Hall.
Should have happened.
Yeah.
Also,
Should have happened. He moves on.
we know for a fact. Also, this is another interesting one. I think the match happened, but it was never a big program. But the fact that in a like a really fucking like stagnant time for WLF that they didn't just do a Razor Ramon Undertaker feud in some extended
that was
form.
coming up though, wasn't it?
Apparently, it was one of the reasons why Scott Hall left when he did in '96 because Vince had kind of, used the Vince Jedi mind trick to convince Hall that he was going to have a program with Undertaker and he'd turn him back heel and he'd help him get up the card a little bit. So he was always promised it, but I don't think he ever got it.
Because he would have just come off the Goldust feud, was it?
Yeah, which he hated. Yeah, which kind of helped propel him to leave.
Yeah, but also I loved that feud.
Goldust and Razor.
Razor, it was great, yeah.
Absolutely.
But then it got then Roddy Piper took his place.
When you're
Also
talking,
like that as well.
when you're
It-
talking
yeah.
about Taker, Terry Funk.
Ah, I think it happened though, didn't it?
Terry
Oh no,
Funk- Terry
he
Funk
just
Taker.
he just chokeslammed him out
He
of his
just got
boots.
chokeslammed. Now it might have happened in the 80s or whatever.
Terry
but,
Funk,
like,
Undertaker. I mean, anything that's like, it's the same thing with that Eddie Guerrero and Shawn Michaels things. You got these two excellent like Texan wrestlers who really contrast with each other and are, coming from kind of different generations in a way. Terry Funk Undertaker would have been really cool.
especially if you were to carry on that whole Undertaker last outlaw kind of thing, gunslinger, like Terry Funk's at that stage of what the Undertaker would be in say 10 years, 15 years. You can kind of carry on something like that.
Yeah, and Terry played that kind of character, like the outlaw.
Terry
Just trying to win one last title. In 20,
5 and 1.
Yeah, in
2040. Yeah, Undertaker Terry Funk would have been cool as shit.
Because Jim Cornette, when he was asked to fantasy book WrestleMania 18, and instead of Taker Flair, he said Taker Funk.
Who'd you put Flair against there then in that one?
I love that feud, by the way.
I loved it. Aaron
was
Anderson
class.
hitting the sickest spinebuster ever
Yeah.
on WrestleMania.
NWO
Stop talking.
versus DX.
I honestly think they're too similar to have worked in contrast with each other. It's like,
But like, say if that war happened, right?
And they call to the door, and the door actually opens up.
And they have a match. All right, and you're to put 5. Like, do you do a 5-on-5? Because that means like it couldn't theoretically happen because Michaels wasn't with the other.
I think
Barry
I
I think
Commissioner
NWO are too.
I think WrestleMania 31 kind of fucked this because it showed that it's not going to work because you're also going, hey, there's these guys and there's these guys, but also combined, these guys are just the
Friends.
clique.
They're just
Who are
friends.
the secret hidden
Yeah.
third group within
The
both of those
Illuminati
groups.
of the-
They're the Illuminati of like the on-screen stuff.
So you end up with like the invasion type, like B team who like ultimately
Yeah,
take up
I
the
would have
charge.
been way more interested to see DX and Four Horsemen, and I would have been way more interested
Okay,
to see NWO against the fucking Nation.
But right, okay. But we're talking about iterations, right? When you're talking about the Four Horsemen, then, so I'm trying to get DX versus NWO feasibly, right? Could have happened 2001 invasion, maybe in 2002. So what way do you do it? Do you do a 5-on-5 with Shawn coming back in 2002? You have to wait a year. So is it X-Pac or they're fighting over X-Pac, right? So it's 4v4. You have Road Dogg,
I know. Yeah, I think
Billy Gunn, Shawn Michaels, Triple H. They're fighting over Rick Rude. So Xbox goes with DX.
X-Pac. Yeah,
Right.
that's a good fella 5.
So then you have this is where it gets tricky, right? So do you have Hall, Nash, Hogan?
You definitely have to have Hall Nash. You definitely have to have Hogan.
Do you go with Conan because of his similarities to Road Dogg as the hype man?
I think you just I wouldn't.
This is where it gets tricky.
I think I would kind of honor the original iteration of the NWO and what the central idea was supposed to be. It's like, here's a bunch of fucking old WWF
yeah, but
guys.
Max Moon. So Conan was.
Nobody knows him as Max Moon. I would have probably been more inclined to go for.
Luke was always a WCW guy though.
Yeah, I would have been more inclined to go for maybe
Macho.
Kurt Hennig and Macho. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all,
Particularly against like older WWF guys from a previous generation, and then the upstarts,
and they're all fighting for Rick Rude.
and they're all fighting for Rick Rude, who's
Rick Rude
well
and-
worth fighting for.
On
Yeah.
a pole.
Okay, so you throw the Four Horsemen in there. You're talking a different time scale, but you're talking Tully, Arn,
But if you're talking in
Rick.
if you're talking in
Luger.
the era,
Paul Roma.
like we're talking about maybe 1998, 1997
Well, I'm
here.
talking maybe if you can go 2000, because Perfect came back in 2002.
Mongo. What year are we doing? Which horsemen are we doing here?
We're gonna if we're gonna match them up with DX and NWO, we're probably end up gonna be doing the Benoit.
It's Mongo.
The Benoit Horsemen, or like it's definitely not we did about Paul Roma Horsemen. Like no, fuck that. But the Pillman Horsemen were pretty cool.
Wasn't Pillman doing the horse? He wanted Jericho, or Jericho said in his book that it was the ex-horsemen. That's what they were going to call themselves. And
That would have been a
they're
cool
coming
vibe.
against the horsemen, and Pillman would have led in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're really good faction feuds there. I mean, is there any other big faction feuds that we didn't really get in a major way?
Fortune versus the Four Horsemen. No.
Freebirds and the Horsemen were never a thing. I think that would have sold pretty well in the 80s.
I was looking back on
Evolution horsemen.
Evolution were the Horsemen effectively, in the same way like Pinnacle and AEW were. But you couldn't have really done Evolution I think the Horsemen probably. I think the idea was that you keep regenerating with older members, but like most of the guys they picked ended up dead or were useless, like Paul Roma.
Is there any interest for matches now that could happen in the future that haven't happened? Say like a Roman Reigns, Kenny Omega.
Reigns, Omega, absolutely. I think the Shield's triple threat one is. I think actually like a women's match that I would be really excited to see just for the clash of the egos and the personal family history is Charlotte Flair, Tessa Blanchard. Like that is a potentially massive women's match coming down the line. I don't know if it'll ever come together. But because of their histories, if you got Tully and Rick out there, I think that'd be gold.
That'd be class, yeah. When I think of when I was thinking of this earlier today, the name Awesome Kong and Charlotte came into my mind. I'd love to see that, but this was Awesome Kong. That couldn't have feasibly happened because Awesome Kong is her best run was in TNA against Gail Kim 2008. She was fucking
her run
class.
before she got pregnant wasn't awful.
Her WWE run,
like brief,
they set her up exceptionally. They set her up as the antithesis of like the diva era. She was coming
before
in,
Paige was
ripping the heads off Barbie dolls. She was fucking fantastic. She just, there's a lot of bad luck and bad timing there, but that would have been
terrible.
Yeah, well, if I don't know if there was anyone who was like the ultimate kind of foil for her in WWF. I'd love to. I would still.
How long? So what year was that? Like when did
it have been 2011,
2011 she came back at the Royal Rumble, I think.
Yeah, it was great. She had that great Rumble spot, and I think she was only at that stage maybe the second or third woman to be in.
Beth Phoenix maybe.
I think Beth was maybe the second one. Yeah. But I would love. I mean, she's she's showing up. At Impact 1000, I think she's going to be wrestling at that.
Oh no way!
I mean,
when she was in AEW, it wasn't the same.
She just didn't get to do a lot.
And she was also filming a lot, so she was back and forth. She
was on Glow at the time. I would love to see her get like a late stage run in AEW or WWE, where she can, particularly WWE, I think, where you could just put her up against a few, just treat her in that role, just acknowledge the fact that she's an absolute legend and she's an icon of women's wrestling in the last 20 years, and just let her in as Awesome Kong, and put her in a couple of barn burner matches.
In women's wrestling, I really want to see Jade Cargill against anyone on the roster that's part of like the world title clique. Like I don't know why they keep putting her on this TBS.
Like Jade and Sasha is a thing that will and probably should happen. I'd say sometime in the next maybe year.
She's got like grand. She's green the ring. Grand. She's like she's not a technician or anything, but she's such a star.
She's got the Goldberg thing. It's like she'll put it together, I think, and she's working hard and.
But like
she's such a star.
They need to start putting her with stars. They need to start putting her with a Britt Baker. They need to start putting her with a Jamie Hayter, whoever's around, like whoever's.
I think Jamie Hayter would be cool.
Tony Storm, Ruby, like anyone who's got a bit of caliber has been someone before, but instead they just stick her on TBS stuff. They have her back now, Chris Statlander.
Yeah, but I think they're patient with her, and eventually she'll get there. I think rushing her into those feuds when she's still pretty green is.
She's there 2 years.
But she 2 years is early in a wrestler's life. I mean, it was good.
This is Matt. Like when maybe in the actual spawn of being a wrestler's life, but being in a company, like when you look at Austin's run, it's not that fucking long. When you look at Foley's run, Rock's run on top in WWE wasn't that long.
Rock is more comparable. The other two at least had like 10 years.
Rock's more comparable. But you compare it to guys now, like Sheamus has been in WWE since 2009 on the main roster. So he's been there since like 2007.
Plus he was shoehorned into a world title scene practically.
Yeah, straight away.
Yeah, but also
like a lot of these guys are still. I think that it's maybe a lack of character development and storyline driven narratives on WWE's part. There's been no progression in a lot of this.
I think if Jade was in WWE, she'd be already she'd be a huge star. They'd be selling. She'd be the queen of the division. They'd book her right, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not saying she hasn't been booked right. Obviously, she went on this massive run, but she's been purposely kept away from people who can make her next level star.
Well, yeah,
because they don't want a job to her.
Yeah, well, to protect the other people. Yeah,
maybe I think patience.
It's a virtue.
It's a virtue, and I think she's going to be in all those programs eventually. The fact that she's back now, you're just going to be seeing her trucking people constantly. I don't know if she's going to necessarily be like
that's all I want.
Female Goldberg. She's already done that thing. I think just let her evolve now and see which way it's going to go. But there's a load of money matches there that they have, so I think there's a ton of stuff that they can do.
Speaking of money matches, Tanahashi and John Cena.
Yeah, that's a money match.
What?
Well, maybe
the two of them
10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago. The two of them are a little bit. Oh, yeah.
I never want to see a Tanahashi match again. Like
Did you not enjoy Tanahashi and MJF?
No.
That was class.
I liked the story they told. I mean, it wasn't like I was just again. It's
I know,
sometimes you get these dream match. And not that Tanahashi
I know,
MJF
John.
is a dream match, but like sometimes you're glad to see the thing play out,
No,
and it
that's
plays
again-
out very specifically within the context of where those characters are.
John, it was shite.
When Tanahashi walked down that ring, when I saw him walk down the aisle, like he could barely get down there. Like the man is just he just needs to pack it up.
Well, it wasn't positioned as a top match on the card, and it was very much a.
It's for the world title, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it wasn't like the main. It wasn't like the main event.
It was
you know
the
what I mean?
main title.
No, it wasn't the main event. It wasn't booked like
It was
that.
the opener.
But it was.
Wasn't it?
It was the opener. Yeah, definitely the opener.
I mean, it wasn't. Like it wasn't on the par of the IWGP
But
match between Sonata and Jungle Boy Jack Perry. But
I'm talking about though Tanahashi and John Cena, two people who would have maybe been similar types of paths in their respective companies. They were the two main guys of the companies, kind of cheesy as fuck as well.
Yeah.
For both
Yeah.
of them. That would have been a
Good crossover match back in 2014.
14.
Well, yeah.
got to ask the question: one match that seems like as the months roll on, it's ever so gradually kind of ebbing away from us. Are we ever going to see Usos and Young Bucks?
Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. I don't think it's like some of the matches mentioned are impossible. I'd say that like as much as Reigns and Omega is possible.
I couldn't give a shit.
I feel like at some point, maybe I don't know. Be interesting to see what happens when the deal with Endeavor goes through and how WWE be run. But it would be interesting to see if, in that kind of marquee way with like boxing and with mixed martial arts, that maybe people will come together. I feel Tony would be a mark for that stuff. We do a one-off, maybe do this Forbidden Door,
Real
but like
Forbidden Door with WWE. Punk could come back.
Triple H, I think, would be more amenable to it than
They let Nakamura do the Great Muta's retirement match. There recently they referenced that on a recent Payback.
Can I also say, Punk and Nakamura would be maybe not now, but that would have been a great match to see happen. I think there's a lot of Nakamura matches and there's a lot of Punk matches that would be fantastic to see.
There's a match you brought up, and we're going way back, between a certain Hulk and a certain Bruiser.
Hulk Hogan, Bruiser Brody, which I think was a rumored main event of WrestleMania 2 at one point.
Right.
Brody, obviously, massive star all around the world at that stage. And this was in the era of monster heels for Hogan to fight. Bruiser Brody would have been like one of the most legit, toughest, well-known potential opponents for Hulk Hogan in that initial WrestleMania run. I think the match did happen before Hogan was really a star, but that would have been a really fantastic like WrestleMania 2 main event.
Especially in the cage.
In a cage, yeah, I would have considering where Brody's career was at the time. Like he was so feared and so respected. I think maybe that was part of the reason why Vince didn't bring him in. Like his dad brought him in quite a bit, but Bruiser Brody obviously projected absolute fucking terror into everyone he encountered.
Look at that cage match with fucking Luger, and he wouldn't sell.
He wouldn't sell.
So if we got a final match that you would pick above all else. I think we went through pretty much anything that you can conceivably think of.
Well, one that feasibly could have happened. The feud was inbuilt. They interacted, but it didn't happen. And I think it's just a real wasted opportunity. Just book 5 minutes in the ring. Let's just do Goldberg and Gilbert. And just get it done.
Didn't they do the Rock Goldberg Gilbert?
They did angles, and Kevin Owens brought him out for his Goldberg feud. Would have been nice to see Goldberg and Gilbert.
Yeah,
I would have liked to see that. Yeah, who'd go over?
Gilbert
has to be.
Will Rock Reigns? Is that going to happen?
Rock Reigns, Jesus. How could we not talk about that? I don't think so. I think Dwayne will explode if he gets into the ring. So I'm not sure.
It seems like the time
has passed.
Yeah, with the fucking strike going on, this guy is like going out of his head. He's sitting in his mansion drinking Terramana tequila. Doesn't have a film to promote.
WrestleMania 40 isn't in LA, it's in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
So WrestleMania 39 was the time to do it.
No, it's actually now because The Rock can't film shit. Cena's back in the fold. I think they could do something really interesting with Cena at WrestleMania.
WWE don't have a writer's strike, no? They're not.
They don't have a union.
No. Think anyone's got a fucking union there? No.
Jesse Ventura got fucking kicked out for that shit.
Yeah, but the writers themselves don't have a union, no?
No.
The writer,
the wrestlers don't.
They probably could be for anything that they've worked on that would have been like Writers Guild affiliate, but they're not going to have shit from Vince. Vince isn't going to be like,
Look, I don't want The Rock back for WrestleMania 40 because I want Cody to finish the story.
Is there a Cody match that you would like to book that you haven't seen?
A Cody match that I'd like to book that I haven't seen.
Is there any?
I'd like to book, and it's probably happened. I can't remember, but I'd like to book Punk, Cody, WWE. I think that would work.
I think Punk Cody has happened, but it would be nice to see them in this kind of context.
Yeah.
An obvious. Sorry, this is what I don't think anyone else is excited about, but I always felt like that Cody with his American Nightmare shtick, his current character. I always felt like the ultimate antithesis of for him in the modern day would be Miro, and that was a match that never happened.
Cody Miro,
especially when you consider Miro or Rusev and Cena and all that build up.
And that was great. That worked really well.
I think the best heel in WWE when he's allowed to be a heel, probably Kevin Owens. Or is he too cool of a heel?
He's a little bit too cool because in real life that he's a real nice dad and he loves going to the zoo.
Because a really motherfucker of a heel like an MJF would do great with a really good babyface like Cody. In saying that, now that I'm thinking of it, Gunther and Cody.
I think that's gonna happen. I think that's coming down the line, and I think it's gonna be great.
Cody's gonna get his face chopped off. He's gonna look like he's been in an absolute fucking battle. Honest, that man goes every time he is in a fight. It looks like he's in a fight, a genuine fucking ass kicking. He gets the most sympathy. His promos are great. I think the intensity with him and Gunther.
Easy.
He's the fucking best in the biz.
I think what's written in the stars is MJF, Cody, and WWE at some point. I think that's a perfect feud.
I don't think we'll be getting that for at least 3 years, if not.
I think he resigns.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Any
your favorite wrestler, Eddie Kingston? Any matches that you'd like to see him
Well,
have?
the dream one for me genuinely is Eddie Kingston MJF, which I like. I've always had. Now things have changed with MJF a little bit, but I always felt like Eddie was the natural successor to MJF. Give him a bit of a Mick Foley world title run, but like particularly for these two of the best talkers in that company, they haven't really interacted with each other on screen, and they're kind of they're polar opposites of like New York, in terms of upbringing and how the characters are positioned. So I think MJF and Eddie Kingston would be a fantastic feud.
So to give people context, after All In Wembley Stadium, we all went to a bar and we proceeded to have a somewhat like a similar discussion where John just would not shut the fuck up about the fact that Eddie Kingston needed to be the AEW World
He's
Champion.
got to be at some point.
Never.
No.
I do. It's insane.
Ring of Honor champion. That's his
I think that since then into Claudio thing, I think that's maybe what they're going to do. But you know what? Punk's gone off now. There's a little bit more wiggle room at the top of the card.
Not for Eddie Kingston.
I would give Eddie Kingston a fucking Mick Foley. Give him the belt for like 30 days. Let him be a world champion.
If he's willing to fall off a 20-foot ladder.
I just think when you're the kind of character who's really made a point of going, I have to be world's champion at some point.
Of the
We
Ring
all
of
want to be
Honor.
world champion.
And we will be.
Really?
Don't give up hope.
I think the time for Eddie was...
But it's also he can't work. He can't work a 15-minute match. Like you can't put him at the top of the card. Like Grant, you're saying it might only be for a month or whatever. But you can't put him at the top of the card for 2 pay-per-views in a row because he couldn't do.
I would buy you 2 pay-per-views in a row if Eddie Kingston was on top of the card.
Don't get me wrong. I like having like random people in the world title picture. Bob Holly in the 2004 Royal Rumble going up against
that could have been Rhino. It could have been also a feud that should have been done in WWE at the time. Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin, that could have been done. There's so many Brock feuds. We got fucking Holly.
Yeah, but I
didn't mind it.
I like that kind of stuff. I love Bob Backlund was a world champion in 1994 for
I loved it. Yeah, that was
brilliant.
all timer. Actually, that heel Backlund against Hogan would have been pretty tasty as well at some point.
But like when they randomly just build someone up like a JBL and give him the ball to run with it. I love that kind of stuff. I don't think that's going to happen with Kingston. And I don't think I'd have a massive interest if it did happen with Kingston.
We're supposed to be talking about dream matches that didn't happen instead of 2E doing an intervention for me and my love for Eddie Kingston. I'll fucking stand by it.
Well, look, it's still world champion that never happened. Eddie Kingston.
I hope he isn't on that list, but he currently is right now. I mean, like the World Champions, it never happened. That's probably a different episode. You should just save that one.
Yeah, but Eddie Kingston would be the number one
No, he wouldn't be on the list
for him.
He'd be up there. He will be up there. Other matches that didn't happen. Oh, there was a really big one there that was in my head, and it's after falling out of it there now. It's like a really obvious one. Probably a Bob Holly match of some sort.
Bob and Crash.
Who do we not get? Who do we
JBL?
not get Bob and Crash? Not really JBL. Although I would have loved to have seen a really tasty JBL Ron Simmons feud in 2004. That would have been great.
That would be perfect.
Yeah,
But do you sacrifice JBL on the border beating up Mexicans?
Yeah, but then he's obviously gets super.
But because
racist
he was playing like a kind of vaguely like this kind of like not vaguely actually quite explicitly racist character.
Yeah.
His old tag team partner, who by the way is Ron Simmons, the first fucking black world champion in history. I mean maybe the matches wouldn't have been good, but those guys were good promos. They were a tag team for 4 years before that. Like that, I think that would have been a great world title feud for JBL at that time.
Yeah, and I think the matches would have been
for 6 years, 6 or 7 years.
Actually, yeah, maybe like they started tagging like 99, and then this was 2004. Yeah, for like five years.
Eddie or JBL went on to Eddie, had that fucking gusher of a match.
Yeah,
where Eddie split open, and they had the bell match,
the bull rope match. Yeah.
He got chokeslammed through a limousine by the Undertaker. I think it was Booker T. Booker T went up against at one stage, or maybe that's Batista. But then he went on. He had that barbed wire steel cage match where he got chokeslammed through the ring and ended up winning by crawling out under the ring. I think JBL's fucking 04 run is flawless as it is.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I mean, the matches weren't great, but the faction were good.
Scene as well. So.
Another one as well that maybe could have happened, maybe it might still, is Steve Austin and CM Punk.
Yeah.
You think we might get that as a WrestleMania brawl?
With the fact that he came back for that Kevin Owens match, like, goes to show that he probably was pretty close.
He's got one in him, and I would
that
think
video game rivalry thing when they had that sit down interview.
Yeah, I think their paths can kind of potentially cross now. I don't know if it'd be a great match, but again, they're two smart dudes and storytellers, so like they could get together a pretty tasty 14-minute brawl, I think.
Ultimate one then, if we were to finish it.
Dream match that never happened.
I do think Michaels and Guerrero is the one for me that I just would have loved to have seen.
I think Angle Brett for me would be the one that I'll never get to see.
Sting and Taker. I think I'll have to go with that one. I was a big WCW mark. Love Sting. Just the two fucking worlds colliding. That would have been something that I would have loved to see. With Taker going over at Mania.
Oh yeah, who goes over in our dream matches? You say Taker goes over at Mania.
I would agree with Taker going over at Mania because I would have used that as the bill to feed him to Bray Wyatt eventually. If Vince gave me the pencil.
Who goes over? Who was your match?
Mine would have been Eddie Shawn. Absolutely Eddie.
Yeah.
Shawn wouldn't have needed that at any I think peak time they could have done it.
Brett goes over.
You fucking son of a bitch.
Fucking Mark.
Just a nice Shane.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know Angle obviously goes over, but like it has to be every time. It has to be the younger guy goes over, right?
I think it should be in all those cases. Although is Undertaker is younger.
Yeah,
Undertaker is younger than Sting.
He has to. Sting's like 86.
Sting's still wrestling. Sting's got a few in him still, so we got that.
Sting's still wrestling. Yeah, there's probably a few Sting dream matches still out there.
Who retires Sting? What runner?
Darby.
Oh, yeah, it has to be Darby, doesn't it?
I'm going Malachi, but okay.
Malachi would be class as well.
Well, you're talking about taking up the mantle kind of thing.
Yeah, does Darby need to beat him? Well,
No,
maybe. I don't know. They'd probably have a tasty one-on-one, wouldn't they?
I would love, right? This is
just not Jericho, basically.
No.
This is my idea, right? So you have Malachi and Darby facing off, right? You have the three House of Black and it's Darby. Lights go down, lights come back up. Sting is in the ring behind the House of Black, right? Then the House of Black just stand and Darby runs and attacks Sting. Darby joins the House of Black.
That's pretty cool.
Darby joins House Black. That's the only problem I think with it, that any feud between Darby and Sting is that it means Darby has to turn. I don't see it yet.
Sting turns. I just want to see Sting shave his head.
Sting turn before he goes.
He has a bit of a like
you can't. The fans would never believe Sting is a heel. Just gonna cheer him no matter what.
Yeah, it wasn't a good thing for him to do. Another one that actually I forgot about that I meant to say as well. That should have happened. DDP and The Rock.
They fucked over DDP.
Battle of the People's Champions.
They fucked over DDP in WWE by making him a stalker of The Undertaker's wife.
This is embarrassing.
It was silly. I was there for DDP's whole fucking run in WCW, and it was amazing. I loved him. Diamond Cutter versus The Rock Bottom, and then they brought
that's exactly how he should have been brought in. I mean, it was great to see The Rock work a program with Booker T, but I would much rather see Undertaker Booker T at that time, and then which also was a thing that should have happened. And like putting the other two together.
Is it any wonder why we didn't get these fucking dream matches?
Egos.
Yeah.
But when Vince brought in the likes of DDP and brought in the likes of Booker T, they all jobbed out at the start. Right?
That's Vince, yeah, WCW.
Yeah, it was WCW guys.
Sting's looking at that and he's like, "Fuck that! Why would I go there?"
I mean, there was very little like all that, like that. You know, that was this really fertile opportunity for a lot of these dream matches, and we got so little of them.
Jobbed out. Goldberg got the title, but he got fucking absolutely eviscerated. Even though he went through everyone at that elimination chamber at SummerSlam, he got jobbed out eventually. Fucking NWO. What the fuck happened there?
I know, it was a mess. The only real dream scenario that I think we got around the Invasion time, which I think the fans themselves, like me as young at that time looking at that, would have booked, was this idea of going, oh yeah, we're going to get RVD and we're going to get Jeff Hardy, and that's
all we want.
That's absolutely a thing we're going to do, and they did that really well at that time. But everything else was really undercooked, and you just didn't get a lot of these dream matches and feuds and scenarios that ideally you should have. DDP and The Rock was just a no-brainer.
I'm still going with Sting and Taker.
Brett Angle.
Oh yeah, I'm still going with Shawn and Guerrero, but also Goldberg.
Well, that's been the Wrestling Fan, the Wrestling Show. I've been Shane. These are the two Marks, John and Ciaran. You can give your thoughts on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube in the comments and likes. Make sure you like and subscribe. This has been the Wrestling Fan, Wrestling Show.